Four Midwest Guys presents The Night's Watch, a Game of Thrones podcast.
Night gathers, and now my watch begins. I am the sword in the darkness. I am the watcher on the walls. I am the shield that guards the realm of men.
We watch, we listen, and we remember. The past is already written, the ink is dry.
I thought he was the man to lead us through the long night. And I was wrong.
I'll show them what Lannisters are. What we do to our enemies.
How do you know this?
That's what I do. I drink, and I know things.
I believe men of talent have a part to play in the war to come. I will never sit around.
You could help another climb those steps and take that seat.
I'm not going to stop the wheel. I'm going to break the wheel.
They have no idea what's going to happen.
The real war is between the living and the dead. And make no mistake, the dead are coming.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Night's Watch, a Game of Thrones podcast. That's right, we're back for Season 7. We did all of Season 6, and we're back for Season 7. With me today to help me through it is my brother, Aaron.
Hey, how's it going, man?
How you doing, dude?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
All right, Enkebauer's on vacation, and John and Stephanie have created their successful spin-off podcast called the House of Zanardelli. They've already released their first two episodes. We're going to kind of combine ours. So here at Four Midwest Guys, you're going to get two podcasts on the same thing. John and Steph's is more of a quick reaction. Ours is a little bit more scripted. So two different styles, two different ways of doing it. And it was just the only way we could do it and do the show we love called Game of Thrones.
Yeah, you can show which one you like more by, upvoting, sharing, all that fun stuff.
All that fun stuff. We don't mind a little healthy competition. But I'm sure you'll enjoy the original much better.
Either that,
just
or
kidding,
you can
John.
send rude comments. That's also fun.
That's fine too. I don't mind. All right, Aaron. Well, we got two episodes to cover, so let's get right into episode 1, which is Dragonstone. Is the title. So right off the bat, before they even start the traditional Game of Thrones music and the map scene, we're hit. We see a pitch. We see Walter Frey returns.
Yeah.
Or at least we think he returns.
Yeah, like it looks like him.
He's making a big speech, and we're like,
yeah, it's like a big party, and all the Freys are invited. And you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. When is this happening?
Precisely, because I was like, is this a flashback? Because at the end of season 6, we saw Arya kill Walter Frey.
Yeah, like you almost think like this is the scene that happens like right before like he gets his throat slit.
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly.
This is his last party.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, that's the only thing that makes sense. There's no way. And then he keeps talking, and he passes out the wine, and then he starts saying, you forgot to kill one particular, you didn't get all the wolves, and you really
there's that great line, like, if you leave one of the wolves alive, the sheep aren't safe.
The sheep aren't safe.
And there's also that kind of fun little moment where, like, I guess it's like Frey's youngest bride was like about to take a drink. He's like, I'm not going to waste good wine on you.
On a woman, yeah. I was like, whoa, okay.
And you're like, damn, dude, we knew you were an asshole, but fuck.
But yeah, it turns out
like it was actually Arya sparing her life.
Yeah, Arya sparing her life, and Walter Frey is Arya, and Arya has just poisoned the entire house of Frey.
Yeah, and she like takes off like the death mask right before they all fucking die, and they're like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, I was
like,
just holy
it's like seeing a magic trick on your deathbed. You're just like, what is happening?
So it's like I just got fucked by a little girl. It's literally killed by a little. She wipes out an entire house.
Oh yeah,
gone. Period.
Oh yeah,
done.
At this point, Arya is that level of assassin where like houses fall by her decision.
Dude, she's like, I always said, I've always compared to her because I'm a Star Wars fan. She's Anakin Skywalker. She's full on Darth Vader in this moment, dude. Dark side, everything.
I don't know, like this is kind of like him, like Anakin just going on a killing spree with the desert people at this point, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Like that's kind of the comparison you'd go with.
Kind of that,
like taking revenge on like her,
on the
lost family,
the people that killed her family. Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
But even then, like in this moment, she still like retained herself. She's somewhat merciful to like people she doesn't blame, and like
okay, yeah,
like a little better than Anakin.
I do love the smile though as she's walking away. She's smiling, dude. That grin.
Oh yeah, dude. That the actress just did a phenomenal fucking job. Like it was very well done.
So you think there's still, I guess, the one question to come out of the scene. So you think that Arya, there's still some redeeming qualities about Arya then?
Oh, I don't even think anything this makes her unredeemable in this universe.
It's just pure vengeance.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Like if you honestly, the poison was pretty quick acting. She slit like Frey's throat, and that was pretty quick. She's not torturing people. She's just taking revenge. Her family, got wiped out.
Yep.
And now she's wiping out an entire fucking house because that's what you do in this universe.
I tell you, it's got me worried though because they gave us this awesome thing to start the whole season with, and it's positive for the Starks. So I'm like, oh god.
Oh yeah, like the Starks are on the up and up at the beginning of the season, which generally is a sign shit's not going to go well.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Like 2 episodes in so far, there hasn't been like any huge twists yet. So here's hoping. Well, it could go either way.
I'm hoping. I'm just like, oh crap. I was like, I'm cheering in the inside, and I'm like, oh shit, no, oh no.
Oh yeah. Well, I think one of the things I was kind of interested in about the scene was like, I wasn't aware like she could actually just take anyone's face and use that as like actual disguise, because I thought it actually had to be like one of the actual faces from like the Hall of like the Death God thing,
and they had maybe took a little bit more time in preparation, but I guess she knows how to do it on the fly now.
Yeah, like clearly there's a way of like prepping that to like just be like your face and your disguise, and she's able to do it presumably pretty quickly. Like if you assume that's like the day after she kills Walter Frey.
Yeah, because they said when's the last time Walter Frey, gave you 2 feasts within a fortnight? So obviously she made, this is the second feast where Walter was killed at the first feast at the end of it. So, a fortnight.
Well, it's funny because even in that speech where she's talking about that, like she's kind of going out of her way, like, I know people view me as an asshole. That's okay.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. She's playing the character perfectly, obviously. Yeah. But this whole scene is just very satisfying, though. I mean,
like you look at this and like this is more satisfying than like Ramsay Bolton getting eaten by dogs. Like it shouldn't be more satisfying than that, but it's up there.
It's up there. I still like. I still like the Alpo version of Ramsay, but better. But it was just a great scene. It was a great way to kick off the season. I mean,
I couldn't think of a better way of kicking off the season.
Yeah,
like don't get me wrong, like you have Daenerys returning to like her birth home, and that's cool.
Yeah,
but this is fucking epic.
But this is what's great about this too is I wasn't expecting that. I don't think Game of Thrones has ever opened like this. It's always opened with the music and the map. This is actually seen, before all that.
Well, I think that could be a very good indication of like how much they had to pack into this season, because this is more or less going to be a split season.
Yeah.
More so than like 2 separate seasons.
Yeah, 7A and 7B essentially is what they're calling it. So, yeah.
So I mean that could be just an indication of like, and it clearly does seem like they want to wrap everything up. Because if you look at how quickly the season's like first couple episodes gone by, they've put a lot of things together and have already seen characters kind of coming back in and kind of merging together and such.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about this when I give this episode and the next episode overall grades. But yeah, so far it seems like where in past seasons the first couple episodes are like set up.
Yeah, like this one's it's really wrap up.
It's wrap up, and there's a lot in these episodes that are very fast paced.
I think that's kind of goes to show the pace of last season really setting up this season very well. Because that's really where we ended off of last season is like
tremendous high.
Yeah, and then it's just like now we kind of hit the climax, and now it has to kind of wrap everything up. But at the same time, I actually think we're going to hit like more kind of highs
on the as we move through.
Yeah, like as we're wrapping up, like. It's just going to be like a really like good, like kind of high, like fast paced classical song where you just keep having those moments of like building up.
Building high like the Imperial March.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so let's move on to the next scene real quick. It's a pretty brief scene. It's you get the White Walker, the King of the Dead, walking out of the snow. And the big surprise of the whole scene for me was the 3 Walking Dead giants.
Oh, yeah. The giants were fucking awesome.
So not
only do they have White Walkers, they have giant White Walkers.
Well, just when you thought zombies walking in the snow couldn't get any cooler, they just one up this. Now they got giants.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. They have giants. You have like zombie horses, and you've had like I don't know what was the one dude that could like teleport into his bird. I don't remember what bird it is.
Oh, you're
but
talking about Brandon Stark.
No, like there was actually a wildling that could do that. I can't remember his name, but he has like a bird, and I think you kind of see a bit of it.
I can't remember the wildling. I know Brandon Stark's one of them, the three-eyed ravens, the other one, but the warging or whatever.
Yeah. Like you actually see like a couple other like small animals kind of in zombie form, I think. Mm-hmm. I don't remember at what point that shows up, or I'm completely misremembering it, but we definitely do see the zombie horses though.
But it to me it just shows, the army is getting bigger and definitely bigger in stature.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, pretty much by the time every time they take a city in the north, then they're just adding to their numbers.
Right. Everybody they kill, he just raises his arms and up they come.
Yeah, it's pretty.
So
it's an increasing army essentially.
I think I called him the Death King. It's actually the Night King. But anyway, so it's it's gonna get interesting. I think there's at least the potential to see a White Walker invasion maybe by the end of this season.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, you'll either see it around the end of this season or maybe the very beginning of like the next half of the season or 7B or whatever we're calling it.
Could even be as early as the next episode, which for us right now would be episode 3. You just never know because they're good at throwing us curveballs.
Yeah, that's very fair. But at the same time, we seem by 2 we're kind of dealing with a lot of stuff in the South and with Daenerys and like that. So it might transition there and kind of jump back and forth, but we'll have to see.
We'll see.
But we really don't really see a whole lot of like Brandon in the scene and like.
No, in fact, that's the next scene, and it's just a brief scene. There's not much to it. It's just Bran getting to the wall, and being led through the wall to Castle Black.
Yeah,
There's
pretty
really
much being like, he does kind of have that cool moment of where he's like, "How do we know you're his brother?" And is like, and then he starts listing off shit he's seen. He's like, "I've seen what you've seen."
Yeah, you were here. You were here.
Yeah,
he's like, "Whoa,
that's a weird trick. Let him in."
Yeah, I know, right?
Let's see what else he can do.
Yeah, what other magical tricks can you do, David Copperfield? Yeah, there's nothing else to it, unfortunately.
It's really the most brief scene, like in the entire thing. Like it's just kind of setting up that he's there. That's all the scene really does.
That's really it. I mean, there's nothing else, unfortunately, that we can talk about. Next scene is basically it's Jon, now King of the North. We're kind of versus Sansa here. This is in open.
They're having some differences in opinions.
Open court, I guess you would say.
Yeah,
of the North. Jon's making it a point, I guess. The dragon glass. He knows, obviously, he keeps coming back to that because
you need weapons to deal with the White Walkers.
With the White Walkers, he's like, well, that's now more valuable than gold. So, he's making that point to him.
Well, yeah, like anything that allows you to survive is more valuable than monetary resources in that scenario.
In this scenario, yes. So, he's making this point, and the other big point that comes out of this scene is he says everybody has to fight.
Yeah.
If you're 10 and you're a girl, sorry, you got to have a sword in your hand or a spear,
And Lady Mormont's like, all right, that's fine.
Which was cool to hear her.
Yeah, you
put what's her uncle in her. I think it was their uncle in his place or something like that, or something.
Yeah, it was like one of the other like northern families had, and she was like, "Hey, I was in the last battle. I'm going to be in the next couple.
Yeah, I'm not
deal with it.
I'm not going to let my guys fight, without me fighting as well.
Yeah.
So,
and I love what they've done with that character. Like Lady Mormont is fucking awesome in this show.
She is a really fun character. I got to admit. Yeah, it's kind of like having a little Princess Leia or something, or rougher even. Walking around.
Honestly, a little rougher. Like younger and rougher. It's weird.
Yeah, I know. It's like
you just have like this little 10-year-old's like, I have a pointy thing. I can kill people. So we're going to do that.
I think I said this on the House of Zanardelli because it was on the first episode. I said, I think she has bigger balls than some of those guys do in that court sometimes.
Yeah. With how they write that character. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
Shit, dude. Like, you'd hate to think how much, like, how badass she's going to be when she actually hits, like, 20.
Oh,
when she's like a full-grown adult and's already seen like 12 battles and be like,
yeah,
I've faced White Walkers. I've killed lots of things.
If she lives through this, yeah,
like, I mean, if the Starks don't run like the North in the future, it's going to be that
her.
Lady.
Yeah, it's going to be Lady Mormont. Yeah, absolutely. Another point was the wildlings. He orders the I guess you call him, I can't remember his name.
The redheaded wildling,
Thormund or something. Anyway, people will scream at me later for this. But yeah, the chief of the wildlings.
He's taking a castle to protect it.
Right, they're sending him, I think it was Eastwatch Castle, which is the
it's like one
farthest
that's been abandoned.
point. Yeah,
so that's most likely going to be the one that's by the ocean, right?
Right, exactly. And a point about that, and Enkenbauer actually sent me a picture of this. Somebody has looked at that map that we see, and in past seasons, that sea is an actual water past the wall, and now it's just ice.
Yeah.
So the wall ends now, and now you have a sea of ice.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So
that's kind of cool, actually.
So that might be
that's actually interesting
how it
because
happens.
that's going to be the one that's actually closest to the Greyjoys, as well as if they make a wall of ice, it would allow actual White Walkers to walk around, essentially.
Well, I think I'm off, but the Greyjoys are on the west. On the west side, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this would be on the other side of the wall.
Oh, okay, I
side.
got you.
There's like a bay that was there in past maps in the old seasons that was water.
And now it's just ice.
Now it's just frozen. Yeah, it's white. Instead of having water there, it's white.
So
frozen
it's
ice.
almost like the White Walkers doing a blitzkrieg thing during World War II.
Yeah.
Like where it's like the France has this entire giant perimeter that they're defending heavily, and they're like, we're just going to go around.
Well, probably a better analogy would be the Mongols, with the Great Wall of China. That will not work. They will just go around your wall. But yeah, exactly. So in theory, if you go by that map, which it just might be
a theory, but
they could actually just walk right around.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you also have the scene with the Hound. I think it's later in this episode.
Yeah,
that talks about that fortress as well, I believe.
I think
or it talks about a fortress by the ocean anyway.
Yeah. Well, a hill that looks like a spear or head. We'll get to that though. Yeah. So we got that going on. The Umbers and the Starks are parted, and this is really where Jon and Sansa have a real big difference of opinion.
Because she's taking a very Cersei-like mentality about it. She is observing the queen that ran shit that she is familiar with and being like, no. And she actually does make some valid points. Why would you reward a family that's fucking betrayed you?
Right.
And Jon's really kind of doing more what Ned would have done.
Yes. Very much so.
And it is definitely a very clashing opinion about that.
I think Jon is doing the right thing from a noble perspective, but I think Sansa sees it in a more real world perspective.
Yeah.
And I think the solution, is probably somewhere in between.
I don't know. I actually think how the scene ended up with kind of an interesting compromise. Pretty much they got to retain their houses, but they had to re-swear loyalty in front of everyone. And I actually think that was you more or less had 10 to 12-year-olds doing that, but it was a good scene. And it actually had an emotional resonance, and you could see people there who just respected that decision sort of thing.
In a way, I thought it was good and I liked it. I just think that maybe instead of fully restoring their names, they got to keep their castles, but maybe they're kind of they lost maybe some of their honor for a while until they reprove themselves.
Well, yeah, it's definitely not going to be something that deals well with the reputation, but that's not really a lot you can do about that either way.
I think they should have lost something, maybe then, rather than just
have
have
one
them...
of the kids' hands.
Well, not so much a hand, just I think they should have done something that they have to re-earn their full trust, and rather than just have them swear in front of everybody, which was cool and I liked, but
it was a good scene, and it really just showed the character kind of coming out and how he stood on it. And I thought that was kind of an interesting compromise between his original viewpoint and Sansa. It's all right, you don't trust them? Kids, come up here. Will you betray me? No? Okay, we're good.
Right. And that was it. I was yeah, but I kind of see Sansa's point of view.
No, there's definitely a real world opinion to that. There's an argument to be made that makes sense. In a more capitalist system, that'd be the way you'd go.
Yeah.
He's you don't reward people for betraying you.
Right. Bad behavior should not be rewarded, as they say. But we'll see. But I see Jon's point of view that they definitely need every last single person.
I think he actually has a good point about not really punishing the family for the acts of their father or the acts of their head of house or whatever.
Right. That's kind of actually more of a colonial forefathers kind of a thing here in the United States. That was part of their big thing too as well. Not the sins of the father. The other point to the whole while this whole argument's going around, they pan the little finger who's just kind of smiling and
who's actually being super creepy throughout the entire fucking thing.
Yeah, as he always is.
I actually feel like he's being creepier in like this season, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what about it I find creepier.
I think I know. I think it's because he's going after the woman who he said he loved's daughter now, and I think that's kind of creepy.
It seems pretty open about it as well.
Oh yeah, he doesn't like
Sansa's aware of it.
Yeah,
like I don't remember the character's name, but Gwendolyn Christie's character seems
Brienne of
Tarth.
Yes,
seems moderately aware of it. By the end of season or episode 2, John's pretty fucking aware of it.
John's made aware of it if he wasn't before, and we'll get to that as well. But
which was also super fucking creepy.
Yes. So, but you can see though that the gears are always turning with him.
Like it's almost like he's in the end game in his mind.
Yes.
And that's how it comes across.
Precisely. And I even like the scene after this when it was just Jon and Sansa, and Jon saying, well, you can't openly disagree with me, but just don't do it in front of everybody else. And that's where she says, well, you've got to be smarter than your dad. You have to be smarter than Ned, and you have to be smarter than Robb.
Yeah, like... I think she has a point, like, you look at Ned Stark, and he died for being too honorable.
For being too honorable and too noble.
Yeah, because that made him fucking predictable.
Precisely.
And that was an issue in this universe.
Yes. Anytime you do the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, that was more or less the joke for the first 4 seasons. Yeah. Like, you're a good character and you do the right things, dead.
You're dead. You're going to pay the price.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really like that scene between them because that was just reinforcing that 2 different mythologies.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, you definitely had that, how can I not question you? Like, Joffrey didn't allow people to question him either, and he wasn't a good fucking king, sort of thing.
He throws that in her face, but really, she's trying to point out to him as well that don't forget about Cersei. I know you're obsessed with the Night King because you've seen him. Well, I've seen Cersei, and Cersei will not stop until you're dead. Just FYI.
Yeah.
And then John's like, well, there's 1,000 miles between us, and it's winter, and all this stuff. So
I don't know. I think the interesting thing is, like, strategically, I think Cersei might be in the worst position
at this very moment in time. Yes,
like pretty much, with the exception of like the help of her one maester that's clearly technically very advanced for the kingdom.
Yes,
and the Greyjoy like faction that's helping her is just kind of surrounded. And like you actually see that later on where she's having an argument with Jaime about that,
which is actually a great transition because that's our next scene.
Oh, is that our next scene?
It is indeed.
Okay.
So I like to call it the last of the Lannisters planning their next moves. Is what I like to call it.
Yeah, like she's actually painting that giant map on the ground, which is visually fucking awesome. Just to see her walking over it and just like clearly like just thinking of like where to go, where to surround, or where to transition.
Yeah, it's like a life-size game of chess, right? Or Stratego.
Yeah.
Or
at some point, you're just going to see her just have like these giant pawns or like chairs, and she's just moving them around for like representing armies.
Or she'll have these giant figures or whatever.
Yeah. Kind of like how later on you see Tyrion with like those little figurines representing like different armies and different factions and stuff, like something like that, just bigger.
It's cool to see too. Everybody likes a map and a military planning meeting. But that is pretty impressive, I have to admit. But about this scene, the things I took away from this scene that were interesting is right off the bat, she throws a guilt trip right at Jaime. She's like, oh, by the way, Tyrion is now the hand of the queen.
That's trying to kill us.
The one who, supposedly, in her eyes anyway, poisoned our son and
killed her father.
And killed our father.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, right off the bat.
But at the same time, like, you have him respond with, like, you're not really grieving over the suicide of our child and all this sort of stuff. And, like, he's clearly somewhat distrustful of where she stands right now.
Oh, absolutely.
They are not a united front in this scenario.
Not really. He's forced to be united with her in order to survive, I think, almost. Because I even love because how he throws it back at her. And she's like, well, whoever wins this war will have a dynasty. He's like, a dynasty for who? Our children are dead, you dumb bitch.
And she's like, you and me, asshole. You and me.
Well, a dynasty for us, then. It was just like, wow. And he's like, well, what about, we haven't talked about Tommen.
Yeah.
And apparently they hadn't up to that point. And she's like, he betrayed me. Their ashes, we're flesh and blood. I'm like, holy shit. Talk about somebody who's not only living in denial, but it's just straight up cold. And
I don't know if I consider that
lifeless.
denial. It's almost like a weird coping sort of thing. Like, it's just like, just turn it off. That's done. I can't do anything to change it. I tried my fucking best, but that's fucking over.
Right, that's what I mean. It's like she's just shut down completely.
Yeah, like just the emotions just shut off because couldn't fucking deal with them. So legit, that is a coping thing you see occasionally.
And I think that was the only redeeming quality about Cersei up to that point.
Is that she really loved her kids.
Her kids,
she
yeah.
really did. And like, if Tommen hadn't thrown himself off a building, she would still love him even though she felt betrayed by him.
Yes, exactly.
But now that he's dead and all her kids are dead and she's just overwhelmed by grief and just said, fuck it. I can't do anything.
All that's left is the cold-hearted bitch. I mean, that's it. I
mean, there is a certain strategic thinking. It's like, I can't dwell in the past. We're in the middle of a war. We have to move forward. There's not time to process that shit.
Man.
But I mean, like, you're in certain scenarios, man. That can be the logical choice.
I suppose it's logical, but it is definitely cold.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, there might still be moments where that emotion comes full forward and, like, you see her, like, kind of collapse and, like, at night, but during the day when shit has to get done, there's no time for that,
I guess. And that, Jaime does bring up the point at the end of the scene. Well, we need allies.
Yeah.
And that's when she brings up, you see the ships of the Iron Islands, which is, and it's Euron Greyjoys fleet that comes to King's Landing.
Oh, a weird little snippet about that. You know what his main ship's called?
No, I don't.
The Silence. That is what he calls his main ship.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And that's actually when we get to the end of episode 2. There's a very interesting like snippet about that.
Really, you'll have to share that with me. That's interesting. Yeah. But yeah, so Euron Greyjoy comes to King's Landing. I kind of dug. I almost like this character, as evil as he is, because he's mad.
Yeah.
Evil.
Well, he's very aggressive. He's a little narcissistic. And in some ways, that almost seems like an interesting contrast to Jaime and Cersei Lannister.
Yeah.
We're also narcissistic, but usually far more subtle about it.
And much more tactful about it. Yeah.
Whereas he's just very brazen.
Straight up, in your face.
You actually hear him talking about how he saw Jaime slaughter some of his own people. Was just so fucking impressed with it. It's like, bet you can't do as much with that, wooden hand, though, can you?
Yeah, exactly. He's taking punches at Jaime.
Oh, and pretty much making jokes about him fucking his sister.
Yes.
To their face.
To their faces. And Jaime's like, we bring up the slaughter thing. Jaime's like, those were your own kin. And he's like, yeah, you should try it sometime. And meaning Cersei should kill her brother. You know, it's like, holy shit. Dude.
Yeah, like doing it right there.
Right to his face. Doesn't care.
And I guess, like, if he wants to sleep with her and, like, be, like, king. But I still imagine she'd be, like, the main person in charge, even if it was a thing like that.
Well, until he tries to assassinate her anyway. But But, obviously he tries to make the point that they're both trying to murder their treasonous families.
Yeah.
So they have that in common. Obviously offers her his fleet of ships. Then he obviously proposes the marriage deal to her, which she flat out declines in his face.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't expecting that. I thought she'd be more negotiative about it, and I was a little surprised by that. But then his reaction's honestly even more surprising.
Yeah,
where he's just like, "All right, well, I know the quickest way to a woman's heart is with gifts, so I won't return until I have a good one."
It's almost like he's like, "I respect that, but I'll take care of this for you. I'll show you.
Yeah,
I'll prove myself."
Yeah, it's like, I want you to see how valuable I am.
Right. Precisely.
Because I guess, maybe he thinks, well, the Iron Islands are a little backwoods, little territory. Maybe they don't really understand how impressive this fleet is.
Maybe. Or at least how tactful he can be, really.
Yeah.
And strategic he can be, even though he's brazen and bold.
Well, I mean, pretty much he's been a pirate for years and has been successful at it and hasn't been killed at it. Like, he didn't lose a hand or anything.
It's funny, he's kind of a cross between Captain Jack Sparrow and Han Solo or something.
I gotta be honest, I don't know if I see those comparisons.
Well, I did. I definitely see the Captain Jack in him, Sparrow.
Not really.
The off balance, crazy.
Yeah. I mean, if
Mad.
Jack Sparrow did way more cocaine, maybe.
But he's definitely he's a scoundrel, though. I mean, he's but he's tactful.
He definitely is a pirate that became king of an island, essentially.
Yeah, and by killing his own family, but that's what makes him evil. But the fact that he's as good as he is, which we'll get to later, it just proves how dangerous he really is.
Yeah, like it's really kind of hard to tell in the first couple of scenes you see in him last season because he just throws an old dude off a fucking bridge.
True,
it's not really doesn't set up to be that impressive a fight scene.
No, I mean, well, it's not much of a match anyway, right? I mean, obviously he's much younger than his brother was, so. That'd be like you throwing me off the bridge, actually, come to think of it.
Yeah. Pretty close.
All right. So let's move on to the next scene. Sam working hard at the Citadel. Poor Sam. I don't know about you, but after watching this scene, I don't think I ever want to eat beef stew ever again, dude.
Yeah.
It's like shit in, shit out.
Yeah, I like these kind of the cuts they had here where it was just like very quick pace of this chore, just over and over on repeat, and you're just like, yeah, that seems like it really gave that sense of monotony to it.
Well, then it made me sick because they kept going back between the beef stew he was serving and the shit that was the same color that he was
and it's
dumping.
actually kind of interesting because I wasn't aware the Citadel almost works as like a hospital sort of thing as well.
Yeah.
But it clearly does function as a multi-level thing.
Right. That multiple
And
levels.
I guess that makes sense since the maesters actually do tend to wounds and it's almost like a doctor's college in some way.
Yeah, it's kind of like a giant university, and it was impressive to see the archmaester doing an autopsy, really.
Yeah.
They're measuring,
weighing.
dissecting,
pretty much things that, would have been impressive in, our history during like the Victorian times.
Precisely. So
actually way beyond what you would usually expect out of what is viewed more as a medieval sort of timeline.
Yeah, I never would have expected him to be weighing stuff and him saying stuff like, well, this guy was obviously a drinker, look at his liver.
Yeah.
Stuff like that during the medieval times.
Yeah, no. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I'm sure there was some form of medicine during medieval times. I just don't view it on that level because generally during the medieval times, autopsies were more or less illegal, right? Because I know, like, you also had issues with grave robbers that came out of, like, the Victorian era, like, trying to improve medicine.
I think it would have been a lot harder to do. It was, medieval times were very superstitious, too, so, compared to...
Yeah, it wasn't really the heyday of science for the West.
No, it was definitely the Dark Ages,
yeah.
So to see this kind of beacon of light amongst what we traditionally view as
But, I mean,
Dark
at the same
Ages.
time, like, there was a maester that created more or less a Frankenstein monster.
True.
So I guess it kind of makes sense that they're, advanced medically to a certain extent.
I guess, the thing is with this world, you've got religions and you've got you've got dragons and stuff. The only thing that really is kind of missing is magic. So,
you have that. You have that with the
little bit of it with the necromancers or whatever. A couple seasons
well, then
ago,
you had like the what is it? The little forest sprite things that were the North.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I forgot.
Like
about
with
them.
the three-eyed raven and like
the sprites. I call them sprites or whatever the hell they were. Yeah.
So like you do have some magic in the universe. It's just not like rampant wizards.
Right.
Sort of
you don't
thing.
see that kind of stuff. There's no like Merlin kind of per se. But yeah, so it's kind of cool to see. Definitely a change of pace.
Yeah. Like don't get me wrong. You also have like the dragon's fire, which seems more of a chemical thing. But I don't know, depending on how you interpret that,
it's probably more chemistry, but yeah, still, the wildfire, I think it's called. But yeah. But just more examples of what this kind of universe really is, how different and vast and it really is. Couple things from this scene. It was obviously he's forbidden from the Maester's books.
Yeah.
Because he's not a Maester, he's in training, essentially. I guess he's an intern. Or
essentially they have like this little area is like, no, you have to be a full-on, Maester for this. Like,
you're an apprentice at best.
You don't deserve this knowledge yet.
Yeah. So, it's
advanced level.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And but Sam never stops. Like he even made a request to the Archmaester for the books.
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting. He's actually more or less working with the Archmaester there. Like They didn't put him underneath like one of the like minor maesters or anything. Like he's actually doing like legit work on like, and that's kind of interesting in some ways.
Well, it might actually show just how smart Sam really is too. Then maybe they see that he's more of a prodigy than they, and they're just not letting him in on that, kind of thing. So that maybe that's why he's with the Archmaester. I don't know. They haven't really
Either that or it's
explained
just
that.
a storyline. It just makes it easier to work that way, sort of thing.
It could be. And I even like the Archmaester, now I'm thinking about it, his little speech about, well, where are the people's memories? When this disaster happened, they said the sky was falling. And
he actually has a very kind of moderate viewpoint about it.
I thought it was a pretty good point. Really, it was a good counter argument to Sam. I mean, it wasn't the right one, but it was definitely
like in any other situation when you're dealing with wars between humans, he makes a fair point. There's lots of political situations where people think it's the end and life goes on.
Right.
Like you can make that argument about World War II. Like it's definitely understandable to have that sensation with World War II, but things did carry on.
Right.
I mean, had it gone differently, maybe not, but I don't know.
Well, we've come to the brink of destruction several times, but he's kind of right. He's like, they're the cool, calming.
It's a very collected He's
trying to say, well, we lived through that, we'll live through this, etc. But I just thought it was cool. But obviously, eventually, Sam, being the sneaky devil that he is, steals the keys and
from some other maester who seems like he has some sort of ailment of some kind.
Something. Anyway, he steals.
Something seems a little off by the dude.
He's able to get the keys, and it's a scene later on, but I edited it on this part because this was the big thing he learned from taking the book so far. He learns that at Dragonstone Castle there is a mountain of dragon glass, like the
like a giant mine, essentially. Or a mountain that could be mined.
Yeah. So big thing, and he sends the raven.
Maybe
off
that's
to
why
John.
Dragonstone is there, is because it's where the dragon glass was.
Or maybe that's where they let the dragons turn stuff to dragon glass.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
could
how
go
it
either way.
works. So,
but yeah, I mean, and that's kind of a fun transition to a later scene where you actually see Daenerys returning to her homeland.
Right, when we'll get to that, and yeah, sure enough. So next scene, it's just a brief scene just between Littlefinger and Sansa, really. Although the beginning of the scene is pretty funny. You see Brienne trying to teach Podrick
how to fight.
How to
see
fight
her out in the courtyard.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because Podrick takes a cheap shot at her. She knocks him over, and the wildling chief's watching all this while staring at Brienne, and walks up to him and goes, "You're the luckiest man in the world."
Yeah.
Kind of bringing back that whole
supposedly
thing.
that was kind of like that entire relation between them, like apparently like an improv sort of thing he kind of brought to it, but it works so well.
It's hilarious. You're the luckiest man in the world.
Yeah. Like he's just like, oh, I wish she was kicking my ass like that.
I think she actually hits him in the balls or something. I can't remember, but that's why he goes, "You're the luckiest man in the world." I was just dying.
Yeah.
I was rolling. Basically, it's just a small tit for tat between Littlefinger trying to do some, I guess, seeds of doubt.
Yeah.
He's just asking her if she's happy, essentially.
Yeah.
And she's just like, yeah, get the fuck away.
Yeah.
So right now her defenses are totally up against him.
But the funny thing is, like, later on, I think you have Brienne come up to, like, check on her.
Thing, yeah.
And as he walks away, he's like, what did he want? Oh, she's like, I know what he wanted.
I know exactly what he wants.
Yeah.
And she's like, why is he still here? He's like, well, he saved us. Without the veil, we'd be dead. You know?
Yeah.
So they kind of justify why he's still around.
Yeah.
So next scene, let's move on. Next scene, Arya and the King's Landing troops. There's not a lot here other than maybe it showed that the King's Landing troops are human. And that they have
it's a very humanizing sort of little thing.
Yeah.
They also mentioned that it's actually they're there as a reaction towards the Frey's dying,
right?
Which is a bit of his thing,
trying to keep the peace.
Yeah, essentially with the Frey's gone, there's no one really owning that land, so the Lannister troops have to kind of spread themselves out and kind of work what the Frey's used to,
right?
And it goes back to like kind of the Lannisters losing allies.
Yes, pretty much,
because the Freys might have been a small group, but they ran that section for them.
Yeah,
they were. What a governor or daimyo would have been for other states.
They're kind of the guardians of the gate to the south, right?
Yeah.
So you had to go through them in order to get to King's Landing. So it reinforced that. It also reinforced, though, I think they say why are you going to King's Landing? It's full of pig shit, and it's not as cool as you think it is.
Yeah,
and,
well, the funny thing is, like, they say that, but they also kind of just want to go to their homes.
Right, they want to go
like,
home
it kind of shows, like, a wariness of the troops because this has been going on for a while.
Right, and that it kind of shows Arya that, yeah, they're her enemy, technically, but there is a human side to everybody.
Like, I honestly thought this scene was going to take a weird, dark turn, and
I
like,
did
she was
too.
going to have to, like, kill
Slaughter
everybody.
them or
and,
something, yeah.
And it didn't. It just didn't happen. It was like... And they've done that a couple times with Arya so far.
Yeah.
Like, there's this scene, and then the next episode, there's the one with the wolves, where I thought it was going to do this exact same thing.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah. So that's about all there was for that scene. So next scene, I like to call The Hound Grows a Soul. So the Hound, who is traveling with, I can't remember their names off the top of my head. I should have wrote it down. The priest who revives the knight.
Yeah, the fire priest.
The fire priest, and I can't remember either one of those names. Anyway, the fire worshippers is the Hound.
Yeah, they believe in the Lord of Light.
The Lord of Light, right? And they end up going back to the same...
I know, would that make him a red priest then?
They are, yeah, actually he is. Yeah.
Okay.
They're part of the same sect or whatever. But yeah, so they go back to a home that we saw... I think it was not 2 seasons ago, maybe.
Yeah, it's the one where the Hound cripples the one dude.
Cripples him and leaves him for dead.
Yeah.
And they end up... So they go back. He doesn't want to go into the house because
he's freaked out by just being there, like by kind of dealing with his own actions.
Dealing with his own shit. They find the remains, and it looks like,
like the dad was just in the corner of the building
holding
up against the wall.
Holding his daughter. Looks like he killed his daughter and then took himself out.
Yeah, he most likely slit her throat just so she wouldn't die of hunger.
Well, yeah, avoid starvation kind of thing. And
that's fucked up, but at the same time, like, it's something we've seen earlier on, like in, I think it's the 2nd or 3rd season where Cersei contemplates poisoning her own child.
Right, before they invade the King's Landing.
Like, King's Landing is invaded, because she knows what will happen.
But he has to deal with his own shit. And there's no walking away from it. And he starts questioning them and why do they believe? And why does this one guy keep getting brought back?
Yeah, it's like, who the fuck are you to where, like, you need to be brought back so many times? And he's like, I don't know, man.
You don't think I don't ask myself that question?
Yeah.
So he's questioning his faith because he has to deal with his shit at the same time. And that's when they're like, walk over to the fire.
Yeah.
So the irony is not lost on me. Here's a guy who hates fire, who's been burned by fire, is scared by fire, and even he says it's just my fucking luck that I'm walking around with a bunch of fire worshippers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which was
like the
funny.
dude who's borderline on being like the Frankenstein equivalent of being like afraid of fire. Well, Frankenstein's monster, afraid of fire.
Afraid of fire. Fire bad.
Yeah.
But so they make him come over and look into the fire, and that's when he sees the vision of the White Walkers walking past. I think he said it was Arrowhead on a mountain or something like that, which is probably that castle.
Yeah, well, he mentions like a fortress near the sea and a mountain sort of thing, right?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, here's a guy. I'm really, and I said this on John's podcast, and I'll say it again. I'm beginning to think the Hound is going to have a significant role to play this season, in some way, shape, or form.
He's had a couple seasons where he's actually played like a decent role, but yeah, it definitely seems like they're wrapping all the characters up because, like, later on you see, like, Mormont again. And you definitely see a lot of the side characters you haven't been seeing for a little bit. Mm-hmm. The maybe one exception is, like, the one Baratheon bastard who rode off into the distance. We haven't seen that dude.
Right, he is the only one that hasn't come back.
But more or less, everything else is kind of wrapping itself up.
Coming full circle, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just beginning to think, though, because here's a guy who's drastically changing.
Yeah, they definitely have. I don't know if I'd go so far to say it's a redemption arc, but
it's close, though.
It's the closest thing I think you can get in this universe.
Here's a guy who's he's going to do a 180 at some point, or he's trending towards a 180.
I mean, you definitely see a character that was just brute, kill, fuck people over, or whatever, and you definitely see him somewhat dealing with conscious and moral issues and like his own actions. Like, yeah, you definitely see a transition of the character.
Oh yeah, because I mean, it starts. His humanity starts when he takes Arya out of King's Landing,
Yeah, and at one point, Arya leaves him for dead.
And kills him, essentially.
Yeah.
Before he's brought back to life by the...
Well, he doesn't really die. He just gets close to it.
Yeah, they find him and he's revived. But either way, he's gone through this major transformation, and I just don't see them wasting that without some sort of
payoff. I don't know, man. Like, it's a weird show where it could just to mess with you, but at the same time, like, yeah, it's been a pretty big transition for the character.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, I can't think of any other character in the show that has had that drastic a personal story arc.
Not
like the only one that comes close is actually Arya herself.
As far as
maybe Sansa to a lesser extent.
Because I always thought the Hound was just a side character, but he's a side character who is having a major character arc.
One of the interesting things about like this sort of universe is like in the books, each different chapter takes like a different character's perspective. So, like you have narratively characters that have more importance, but you don't necessarily have a main character as much as you have characters where you keep jumping
back and forth, which is
kind of
like
really almost the universe.
Change.
Yeah,
that's cool. I never thought about it that way before, actually. So to end this scene real quick, he basically buries the man and the girl's remains.
Yeah,
and tries to be poetic about it.
Yeah, you almost have the one dude helping him out. He's like, I don't know any prayers. You say something.
Or he's like, the father did blah, blah, blah. And I don't remember the rest.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you're dead. You deserve better.
Yeah.
Walks away.
But even that's that's
a big step for him, though.
Yeah,
that's huge.
It's almost showing remorse publicly. Like,
yes.
Like, I know you deserve better than what I did to you.
Precisely. Exactly. It's a major step for him because he just left carnage in his wake anywhere else.
Yeah.
In his time in his life, probably.
Yeah.
Even. So. The next scene is very brief, and we just find out that Jorah is at the citadel and is probably there for his cure or looking for a cure.
Essentially you see him just grab out a bowl, is like, has Daenerys landed?
Yeah,
and that's essentially it.
That's pretty much it. But that's our first indication, though, that like we were talking to,
Mormont is there. Yeah,
that Mormont is there, and that the Citadel is more than just a collection of books. And stuff.
That
Another
it actually
indication.
Works as like a medical facility
and hospital. Yeah.
Yeah,
like teaching hospital, maybe.
Which in itself is actually pretty interesting because, like, I was not aware of that at the Citadel at the point. I really thought it was just all training through books. At that point.
A giant library and
because like you look at some of the maesters in the early seasons, you don't really see them doing a whole lot outside of just sending ravens back and forth.
Right. I looked at them. Yeah, they probably have some apothecary skills. And
like you just assume like they're academics and like they might transcribe things and they can actually read and write and like they're educated for medieval times.
Right, that's what I was thinking too. But obviously they're far more advanced than that.
But the funny thing is, like, you look at like the old maester of like King's Landing, that dude that wore the little chain things and all that, never gave that indication that he was really anything outside of maybe knew some medical stuff, like with like herbs and shit.
Are you talking about Cersei's maester?
Yeah, like the one before.
Well, he's creepy to begin with, but
the one before. The dude that created Frankenstein's monster out of the...
Oh, you're talking about the old dude.
The old
gets
dude,
killed.
Yeah,
I know you're talking about.
Technically, he was the old maester, but you never really see him do anything outside of giving, like, potions and shit.
Right. So you have no indication. And then obviously it's a much bigger world.
Yeah. It's weird, actually, to see, like, this kind of going into, like, the final seasons and still be kind of world-building like that, though.
Yeah.
Because, like, between Dragonstone and that, like, you definitely are seeing more areas and it is expanding the universe more.
Yeah.
Even though it is kind of wrapping up at the same time.
Well, it might, and again, I think, and I mentioned this in the last season, I think they're going to go back. You're going to see a prequel series. You might see a sequel series.
I think HBO is considering like three different
options. Yeah. So obviously this world we're far from done with. We found out, I think Euron, I don't know if it was this episode or the next one, it's 12 different seas, and God only knows how many other land masses there are beyond those seas. So,
Fair enough.
Yeah. The world, it's kind of like forever building,
Yeah.
All right, so final scene of episode 1. Mother of Dragons returns home. They make a landing at Dragonstone, which is where we forgot to point out, but Jamie had said that's where she was going.
Yeah, that's where he predicted he would go due to various elements.
Deep ports is where she was born, etc. There's hardly any dialogue here, but it's very visual.
Yeah. It's thematically, like, it's really nice. And, like, you have that kind of moment where she, like, almost reaches down the sand and touches it. Like, it's the first time she's touched her homeland, like, home soil for, like...
God only knows.
Yeah.
Precisely. You do, and this is where you do see kind of in the background what looks like shiny dragon glass by the beach, kind of, sort of. So that might be.
I hadn't even noticed that.
Yeah, it kind of looked like it to me. It looked like dragon glass. I could be wrong.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I just noticed, like, you have, like, Grey Worm and, like, Tyrion in the background, like, kind of the small ships.
Yeah. So this was, so you kind of see that in the background while she's walking on the beach. And then the rest is just, it's very cinematic, and they're opening the doors, and you just, the music, and you just get the feeling, and the way she's walking and leading.
Yeah.
She's very much in control. She's very much in command. This is her moment.
Yeah, this is her return home. Like, it's a triumphant sort of thing. Even though it's very silent at the same time.
Right. There's not much going on. And even when they get to the throne room, Grey Worm's going up to protect her, and they pull him back. And like, no, let her have this
At the same
moment.
time, that throne room looks pretty fucking badass.
I do love that throne room with
like
the
giant, like, rock
that's
formation throne thing.
It almost looks like dragon glass too.
It might be, but at the same time, it's like it's such a weird contrast to, like, the Iron Throne that's just like swords of enemies just being welded together.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just like almost probably the same thing, just with, like, stone and glass just kind of formed out of it.
Yeah, it's very
but it's very stylistically different.
It's very it's almost I would say dragon scale-esque.
Yeah.
In a way. It's very rough and
yeah. Like, it just has a very different thing to it, and it's very visually cool.
Yeah. And the one thing I loved about this scene is at the very end, she walks up to the throne and she walks right past it. She has no interest in sitting down and ruling. She goes right to the war room.
Yeah, she has another war to fight.
Right. She goes right to it. She goes to she looks at the table, stands in front of it, goes, "Shall we begin?"
Yeah.
She's not here to rule. She's here to rule the Dragonstone. She's here to conquer.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about that scene.
Yeah, it is very nice, and the elements for it work very well.
I loved it. It was a great way to end a really good episode.
I actually think this is a better ending than, like, how episode 2 ends, even though I think I might actually like 2 more.
Yeah, slightly. But I agree.
This entire episode, it just hits all the points it needs to hit, and it ends and begins on such a high note.
It really does, and it's very satisfying. There's, like I said in past episodes of Game of Thrones, it's kind of slow. That first episode, it's just setting up what's
usually
gonna
it's
happen.
very slow.
It's kind
this
of
episode just keeps hitting all the spots.
This one was like bing, 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 boom, boom.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some dialogue, obviously, but the dialogue was even great.
Yeah.
You had some real confrontation.
Yeah.
Cersei and Jaime.
Yeah, like, all the dialogue served a point. Like, none of it was, character building for the sake of character building. Like, it all multitasked. It was character building and plot
development.
Furthering.
Right. It was great.
Yeah, pretty much the entire thing did very well.
So, we'll take a break here. And so, real quick, your grade for episode 1 so far?
Oh, A+.
Easily. Same here, A+ as well.
Like I said, it hit all the spots. It did it all quickly. Every scene was multitasking in different ways, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's where we will leave episode 1. So let's move right into episode 2. Stormborn was the name of this episode. So if you have not seen episode 2 yet, folks, stop this podcast right here, go watch it, and then turn us back on. We can talk about it. So you've been warned. Moving into episode 2. Episode 2 starts right off with... We're right back where we left episode 1 off. It's Daenerys at the her table. It's at night now though. Yeah. She's at they might have been there maybe
war table sort of thing.
The war table thing. Might have been there a couple days at this point. Hard to tell. But right away, it's almost a confrontation right between Danni and Varys right off the bat, which I was not expecting.
Yeah, like where she kind of starts questioning his motivation. And well, I think before that we have like kind of the plan of how to deal with like the actual war plan, don't we? Before we get to the confrontation with Varys?
That's later in the episode. This is just kind of her talking. It's actually her, Tyrion, and I think Grey Worm's there, but he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then Varys.
Yeah. Yeah, where you have Varys more or less defending his position of what he's done in the past, and actually gives a very reasonable argument.
Oh, I thought it was great. It was great back and forth. I thought, and because they start off, they're like, "You were born on a night like this," talking about her, and the dogs howl, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and that's what starts her conversation with Varys.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Well, didn't you serve both my father and Robert, and you betrayed both of them? So what good are you?"
Yeah,
I mean, just right at him. I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, like, why should I trust you if you have a long history of betraying people you don't like or don't agree with?
Right.
And his argument is like, I was from a royal family. I grew up in the fucking slums.
Right.
I care about what happens to those people, not who's ever in charge.
Right. I'm here for...
And almost he's pretty much saying, like, and if you really do turn on those people, I would turn on you.
I would portray you as well. I thought that was excellent.
Like, he kind of defends his stance on all of it.
The entire dialogue between the two is great.
And it's weird because they kind of wraps up with this whole... If I'm not the person you want me to be, you need to confront me to face. And he's like, that's reasonable. That's fine.
Yep.
But, like, just as a heads up, if you ever betray me, I will have my dragon eat you.
I will burn you alive, is what she says. He goes,
and he's almost like, that's to be expected.
I expect nothing less from the Mother of Dragons.
Yeah.
Perfect way to
end. And it's almost just like, that didn't have to be said. Like, I was kind of on board anyway.
Right, exactly. But it was a real good... I wasn't expecting her to test him, but essentially that's what she was doing. She was testing him to see if he could be trusted.
Yeah.
To be part of her war council and her meetings and everything.
Yeah, and it was a really good scene overall. Mm-hmm. And it interesting because it kind of transitions to the next scene with the Red Priestess. And at the same time, she kind of still throws it in his face.
Oh, yeah, she threw it because obviously... he had his balls taken off by a priest of the Red.
Is it? I thought it was by a different religion. Like, it was just a random mage.
No, it's their religion.
Oh shit! No, we forgot. There actually is magic in this universe. Could you have that entire magic tower?
Magic tower.
Yeah, it's in the different continent.
Yeah, that's what I went by the necromancers or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, so yeah, she throws it back in his face because she's questioning. Obviously, Varys doesn't trust this religion at all.
Well, it's just funny because like she's like, "Oh, he served Stannis," and she's like, "Well, I guess it's good we're in the position a good night to forgive people for serving other kings."
Yeah, we just got done pardoning somebody for serving another king. You're on here on a good night.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty funny actually.
It's a fun little
back
stab,
and forth. In between the two. And then she obviously brings up her big prophecy, right? Which is the prince, or now the princess, can bring the dawn.
Well, it's kind of funny because they're like, "Oh yeah, no, that language doesn't have gender terms. It's neutral." And it's like, I kind of see it because different languages function differently, and there's going to be translation errors.
Sure.
It's a fun departure from like where the books left off with that because that's not really ever mentioned it, but. The books are so far behind now, it
doesn't matter.
Yeah, like it's on its own little universe now. It's like, that's an interesting adaptation of it. I just assumed that it was going to be like a group thing, because I really think it's almost like a 3 dragon head thing.
I've got the same, I agree with that theory. I think it is too. I think there's 3 of them. And I think,
it's clearly Tyrion, Daenerys, and Jon Snow.
Jon Snow, yeah.
Because it hints at all 3 of them being Targaryens.
This is just our theories, guys, but yeah, I agree. I agree 100% with you. But the interesting point about the prophecy is for the first time she pulls back on it and goes, well, prophecies are, can't always be trusted.
Yeah, because the Red Priestess had prophecies that didn't necessarily go as planned.
Didn't exactly pan out. So it was
nice. So she's a bit more cautious of what she used to be.
It's nice to see her pull back
a
little bit and be a little bit humble for a change.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly a very different contrast than when she was under Stannis. It was very
bold and
very much a zealot. Now it seems almost more mild.
Mild and humbled by her
maybe
past
reserved.
Experience. Reserved and humbled. I would say humbled even.
Yeah.
Like she's been knocked off her pedestal and then
some. I mean, pretty much you see her around the time that she brings Jon back, she's in complete doubt.
Yeah. And it's funny because now and that's the part where because she's now humble, I want to trust her, but it's like everywhere she goes, she uses this prophecy to try to get people
to follow her
and trust her and stuff. Because she did it with Stannis, she did it with Jon, and now she's trying to put Jon and Daenerys together.
Which I think is where we kind of expect this to go, anyway. So it's just the logical
It's a nice
path for it.
plot point, I'm sure. But still, it makes me wonder, who can we trust her or not? That's the thing.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think it's one of the things, like, she's aware of what the White Walkers are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I think, in terms of political differences, when you have that outside force coming in, that's your goal to deal with.
Mm-hmm. And I still think she could absolutely be wrong that it's Jon and Daenerys, though, because she was wrong about Stannis.
Yeah.
Obviously. So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, could definitely be wrong about everything, but
and she might
clearly, I think she's working with the best of intentions in this scenario.
I'm hoping anyway she is. I don't know what her alternative motives would be, but
I mean, you could expand the faith, you can give yourself more political clout in the same way you saw the church in King's Landing last season. You could definitely have a lot of those factors.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're as high a motivation.
I hope not. Like I said, I kind of want to like her.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't know. So, but yeah, so she talks her into sending a raven to Jon and invite Jon to come, well, according to her words, kneel before her queen. But,
yeah.
Obviously Tyrion doesn't send that, which we'll talk about here next, actually. So the message arrives at Winterfell, and they kind of come to Jon just at this point is still very cautious. But he knows it's Tyrion because Tyrion throws in that line that both dwarves and bastards.
Yeah, I can't remember the line.
Can't remember the rest of it, but yeah. So he knows it's Tyrion for sure, or at least he's fairly sure. And
is it all dwarves are bastards in their father's eyes?
Yes,
something like that.
Something like that. And they kind of come to one conclusion after a brief debate between him and Sansa and the night. That fire kills White Walkers. And what breeds fire? Dragons.
Davos.
Fire. Yeah. Yes, Davos. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, having dragons on your side against, ice zombies is probably for the best.
Probably a good idea, maybe. So
assuming Cersei doesn't try to kill them all.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
We'll see how that goes.
We'll see how that goes. We'll talk about that here shortly. Speaking of Cersei, so the next scene is Cersei trying to bring some lords to her side, I guess. That kind of
previously like with other houses,
or like the Tullys, or like that have maybe pledged to the Tyrells in other fashions. She uses the whole thought of savages and foreigners in Westeros as a leverage, kind of like racism in a way. I guess.
It's essentially in what we would in modern context refer to as dog whistling, if not just flat out race scaring.
Right, exactly. She's like, the Dothraki will rape your women.
Yeah.
Although she's probably got a point about that, but
I mean, it's the same tactics you've seen used against minorities in like the U.S. since pretty much Civil War era, if not before.
Well, it's a common theme in human history, and not just the U.S. But yeah, it's she's definitely trying to appeal.
Yeah, like it's out there, just full on, propaganda.
Sure, she's trying to appeal to their fears and their anxieties and whatnot. And then Lord Tully, who is Sam's father, who we've met in last season, brings up, well, what about the dragons? She has 3 of them. And all they said is, we're working on a solution.
Yeah.
Looking, and it's
somewhat cautiously.
Her dark maester, as I like to call him. So. And that's pretty much it for that scene with the lords.
It does transition to Jaime talking to Tully later on, doesn't it?
Yep. In fact, that's the next scene even. It's Lord Tully and Jaime talking. Jaime's just he's kind of trying to persuade Tully to fight with them and turn against the Tyrells, because he's pledged to both the Queen, technically,
and to the House Tyrell.
To House Tyrell. We find out that Tully is apparently one hell of a general in the battlefield, because he's the only one to ever defeat Robert Baratheon in the field of battle, which is interesting. Didn't know that. A little bit of backstory.
Yeah.
Which would be interesting to see in a prequel series, I think.
Yeah. I feel like that's you pitching for a prequel series.
Yeah, it is, probably.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, but hey. Wants him to be, and even offers him to be his head general.
Yeah,
in the
and
war.
is actually even sort of bribing. It was like, hey,
Yeah.
we're going to need a new warden of the South.
So,
that'd be a good position for you, right, buddy?
So, I couldn't think of anybody better than you. So, wink,
Which
wink.
isn't necessarily wrong, but at the same time, it's like, hey, if you betray the other house you're kind of pledged to, we got some bonuses in for you.
Yeah, he's trying to bribe him, but he's also trying to
He seems almost half-hearted about it, though, which is the weird bit in that scene.
He's trying to walk a very fine line with him because obviously he's very bound by honor. You get that sense from him during these scenes.
He's a very traditional guy for this universe.
Because even he says, we don't murder our friends at weddings. And we don't backstab. I am a Tully. And that means
he's like,
something.
I'm not one of your fays that's going to just do whatever.
So he's kind of trying to appeal to his sense of honor while throwing a couple shiny things at him at the same time. Well, I'll make you my general, and if we win, you can be the warden of the South. Kind of thing. So Jamie being, I guess it's the first time we see Jamie be political. Really. He didn't, up to this point, he's just kind of, he's an interesting character, but
he's been more muscle
than
anything,
than brains.
Yeah, like he's pretty much, you've either had Cersei or his father kind of taking that role instead of him up until this point.
Yeah, in fact,
don't get me wrong, you've seen him clever and be kind of negotiating certain scenarios, but that was when he was imprisoned, essentially.
And that's kind of an interesting point, that he's kind of like his father. I hadn't thought about that before. That it's almost as if Cersei has become their father's militant side, and Jamie is now taking on the more political role of the father. Kind of, sort of, in a way. I wonder if that'll continue.
I mean, they're kind of dividing the strategies for the kingdom, and they kind of have to work out how they're running, because they don't really have like a hand council at this moment.
Not at this point. They don't have a lot to work with at this point. So next scene is Jorah with the Archmaester. Not a lot in the scene other than he says that your grayscale, which we see is pretty much over, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of his body.
Yeah.
Has gone too far. He told him you should have cut off your arm as soon as you saw it.
Yeah.
And he's like, since you're a knight, normally I would send you off to Valeris to become a stone man and live maybe 20 years. But
I'll give you a day.
Give you a day to kill yourself. And
well, he didn't say it that bluntly, but you see that little pan off the sword. Like,
stare at the sword.
You can write off your final wishes or whatever.
You do whatever you want.
And then you have, I can't think of his name, kind of talking about how... Well, I read this book where this one dude was able to cure grayscale with this, old school technique. He's like, you do realize he died from grayscale, right? Like, it didn't work that well.
And that's why that procedure is now forbidden.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll get to that later. Next scene is the dragon solution. This is kind of a cool scene just to see all the different... dragon skulls and stuff that they've got.
And the one giant dragon skull.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive, because that's even bigger than her dragon, obviously. And then you see this giant bowcaster, industrial strength bowcaster that they've built, and
essentially something meant to just send a log flying 1,000 feet or so.
Pretty much, and even the Dark Maester points out that, well, we heard that her main dragon was wounded in the arena, so that means it can be killed. So we just made this industrial strength bowcaster.
Yeah.
And he shoots it and it goes right through the dragon's skull, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun little scene.
And it kind of shows maybe their industrialism a little bit here.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of.
Once again, it goes to the Maesters kind of, slightly better than medieval times,
It's almost kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio looking kind of design in a way.
Yeah, it's not quite Renaissance, but it's getting there.
Getting there. Yeah. So, moving on. Meeting of the minds at Dragonstone. So this is where we were alluding to earlier, Aaron. This is where everybody's around the table.
Yeah.
And they're kind of discussing the strategy.
Well, the funny thing is, I think earlier in this, you have Tyrion, I think it might be in the earlier scene with them, talking about you don't want to rule ashes.
Yes.
And she actually uses that line when talking to everyone else, and you see him looking up, like, "You took my line."
And he's like, "I'm very proud of that," kind of thing. But
yeah, it's a fun little scene, a little just subtle thing that's kind of amusing in the scene.
Yeah, because I think they're wanting to use the dragons and just
burn the city down.
Burn the city. And he's like, no.
Yeah, it's like, you don't want to destroy the people, you want to rule over them, not the ashes.
Yeah.
And actually, Tyrion's plan is pretty good. Essentially, just starve them out while they wait in there, and then take Castle Rock, which is like the Lannister fucking homestead.
Which is brilliant because he even understands the political side of what Cersei's
and the symbolic of it.
Trying to do with the lords already.
Yeah.
He already knows, and he's like, yeah, well, we're going to take the foreign army and take Castle Rock. You take the domestic guys and just surround the city.
Yeah. Like, you can just starve them out, and legit, if they don't have resources, they aren't having the farmlands around them, there's a big problem to having that large stronghold that doesn't have agriculture, inside it.
Meanwhile, we'll take the Dornishmen, and we'll take the Tarleys, and we'll just surround, King's Landing.
The Tyrells?
Tyrells, sorry, yeah. Tyrells, and we'll just surround the city while you take Casterly Rock with the Unsullied.
Yeah.
Then the foreigners. It's brilliant.
It's actually a really good plan.
Yeah.
Also, if you don't have the dragons at, Castle or at the King's Landing, you don't have to worry about that giant bowcaster.
Precisely.
Which isn't even really an issue that they're aware of.
They're not even aware of it yet, which kind of got me worried because I don't want to lose a dragon just yet.
We're probably going to lose a dragon this season.
I think we are, yeah. Maybe 2.
Maybe 3.
Maybe. It's just the other thing that I thought was interesting, and they even pointed this out after the show and like the after show they have occasionally talking to the directors, is you've got 4 female leaders at this table, which is unusual for
the time period.
Not only the time period, but really for any show or any kind of movie. Really, you don't see that too often.
It's very true, and like you have them of different age ranges. Like you definitely see even Daenerys trying to taking some advice from,
which is the next scene. Yes.
Okay. Well, I won't skip around too much, but taking some advice from Tyrell and.
Well, you see the Danish woman still being very aggressive.
Yeah, and
right off
really
the bat.
still hating fucking Tyrion.
Yes, very much.
Like, one of my biggest regrets is my husband died protecting you.
Yeah. There is no such thing as a good Lannister.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Yeah.
But more or less dealing with it, just like fine. And then you have the Greyjoy. I can't remember her name, but
I just call her Lady Greyjoy. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. She has a real name. I just can't.
I can't think of a name. We're pretty bad with names today.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's been a while since we podcasted.
It is. We're a little rusty. But yeah, so kind of a cool moment. And then Danny asked to speak with Olenna, which is the Lady Tyrell.
Yeah.
Or Queen, or whatever she is. And I thought this was an interesting small tit for tat.
Yeah.
Kind of. I like how she said, I've known, he's a very clever man, meaning Tyrion, and I have survived. I've known many of them, and I've survived them all.
By ignoring
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she just basically after that says, you're a dragon, be a dragon.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see that old wisdom, and it's going to be interesting to see how Danny does, she does that.
It is kind of an interesting thing because you could make an argument it's them dealing with it from different perspectives. You have Tyrion, who's always been a little dude, always been small, always trying to outthink and be out clever his opponents. But he's not used to having dragons on his side. Who's not used to more or less controlling the entire weight of an army.
Which is pretty much...
Even when you see him defend King's Landing earlier on in the show, that's in a situation where he is outnumbered. Where he is the little guy trying to outthink his opponent.
Right.
That is him acting as he normally would. Whereas this is acting as a more aggressor that he's not used to.
That's a very good point. And when you think about the dragons, they're kind of like the weapons of mass destruction, or at least an air force, a bomber air force.
Yeah, I mean, no other, army in this game has an air force.
Right.
And if you don't have an air force before, you may not know how to utilize them properly.
Right. So it's a whole new element.
Yeah.
And I kind of like her idea that her old wisdom is rule out of fear. People, you can't rule somebody if they don't fear you, and that was kind of her argument during.
It's a very
the whole thing.
It's a very old school way of looking at it.
I think so, but it's also probably the most simplistic. I think maybe too. Because Tyrion's plan is very complicated.
She has a good logic for it that her daughter or her granddaughter was well loved, but her granddaughter wasn't betrayed by the people,
right?
Which is something she might be overlooking here,
right? Exactly. So, it may be her way. Maybe isn't the most politically sound or even the most humanitarianly sound.
It is coming from a perspective that she's old and she's probably okay just watching that entire city burn after what happened.
Yeah, pretty much.
There is a certain vindictiveness there where if she could talk Daenerys into burning the whole thing down, she'd probably would.
Oh yeah, she's incredibly bitter and she has every right to be. No offense. I mean, our whole family's dead. Her future is dead.
Yeah.
That house is dead, essentially.
Pretty much a family that was about just growing and prospering and continuing and...
Right.
Yeah, just cut down.
I mean, they come from... We've never seen it, but they come from Highgarden, which is supposed to be beautiful and luscious, and obviously there's no future for that now.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird because I've never thought about it till now, but the Lannisters have no future, technically. The Tyrells have no future, technically.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the spokes of the wheel.
Yeah. One of the funniest things, the Starks, who are the most divided within the first couple of seasons, because everyone goes their separate way, are all kind of collecting and are probably one of the most sound houses left.
Of what's left, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a good point.
Because you have Arya, you have Sansa, you have Jon Snow, you have Bran.
Bran, yeah.
Bran. They pretty much only lost one of the kids.
Well, they lost Rickon. Yeah.
Oh no, they lost two. They lost Rickon and they lost Robert. No.
Yeah, Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
the family you thought was getting the most screwed in the first 3 to 4 seasons,
and don't get me wrong, they get
are
screwed,
actually the ones that survived.
Well, yeah, they're the wolves. You know? But
don't get me wrong. I guess you can also make the argument the Greyjoys could keep going, but
not really. Well, unless well, we'll get to that. All right. So,
I mean, Euron Greyjoy still existing so far.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a character we knew at the beginning, but still. But yeah, both the Lannisters and the Tyrells are essentially dead families walking.
Yeah. And speaking of maybe getting it on or their lack thereof or some... Anyway, Grey Worm finally gets some.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of.
Yeah, you see him in a sexual situation.
Or as best as he can gets some, I guess.
I think in his position he can. It's just not what we would view as heteronormative, or penetrative sort of thing.
As satisfying, I would think. But, hey,
I don't know to what extent what equipment he's left with and what sensations there.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there's something there for him. Because even if you look at, there's an interesting thing if you look at paraplegics that actually can't feel below the waist.
Yeah.
Lots of times they'll develop areas that are as sensitive in terms of nerve function that allows them to still replicate orgasm.
Well, hopefully. I would hope so.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's something there that works for him. It's just not what you would view as traditional, sexual relations from your point of view.
Yeah. So,
but there's something there that's going to work for him, and clearly he's, in a giving situation, so it's going to work for her too. And
obviously he's still very good with his tongue, and so things are good. Things are good.
So there's going to be something that works out there. They're going to have a good time.
They had a couple good lines there. I had no fear before you.
It's kind of romantic.
Yeah, it's romantic.
It's sweet.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
It was okay. I mean, yeah.
Didn't make you all teary-eyed?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I thought she looked good naked, but hey.
Really, that's your takeaway from the scene?
Yeah, I hate to be shallow here, but yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was kind of a romantic sentiment. I don't know how to say goodbye. I'm afraid of losing you. That was meant to be beaten out of me as a child. I thought it was a nice gesture.
It was nice. It was good. Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
All right.
He got some. Good for him. Next scene. Sam tries to cure Jorah. So, obviously...
Yeah, you see him, big, long gloves, kind of apron on. This was actually kind of a fun scene, and a weird contrast to the more sensual, sexual thing that came before it. Because this almost goes into, body horror.
It really
when
was.
You start going into, actually cutting out, the grayscale.
Oh, it was nasty.
And you start seeing, the pus forming out.
Oh, it was horrible. It was so nasty.
I can literally see you cringing.
Yeah, I pretty much was. You got me pegged. Yeah. So Sam, being the rebellious good doer that he is, he's like, I was with your father when he died. I'm here you're not dying today. Jorah. So he literally
he pretty much just gives them like, here's a bunch of alcohol. This is going to hurt like fuck.
Yeah, drink this. And by the way, don't scream because if you do, we're both fucked.
Yeah, so bite onto this because this is going to hurt like a motherfucker. So like this is almost old school like Civil War surgery where they don't have any drugs to numb
anesthetic and nothing like that.
Like just get drunk, bite down hard. We're doing this.
Yeah. So the minute he starts peeling away, cutting away at his scales, this pus just starts flowing out, and he has to dig into the pus. Oh, it was just. And then they made that, and then again, I don't know what it is with Game of Thrones trying to gross me out this season, but they go right from him digging into pus to somebody digging into a bowl of soup that looks like the same color.
Yeah.
To transition to Arya and hot pies.
So out of curiosity, do you find it funny, more or less the cure to grayscale is pretty much cut off the grayscale and apply ointment?
Yeah, it sounds kind of familiar, huh?
No, it's just funny because, like, essentially, like, I think they translated some of the ingredient list, and, like, one of the things is, like, olive oil.
Well, I was just kind of like, honestly, you know what I thought? I was like, okay, so he's got scales, you take off the scales, and you apply ointment. Okay, so this is kind of like the plague meets the clap because of the pus. It was just kind of like, what the hell
I did not
this?
make that comparison at all. I was just thinking of like a skin condition like psoriasis or something.
No, I was totally going, I was like, so he just puts an ointment on and that might cure him, I guess. I don't know. I
mean, I think they're going to cure him. I think that's where this is going.
Honestly, I tried really hard not to think about it after I saw that scene. I was
Why?
Like,
did you prefer thinking about like the pus bowl?
No.
The bowl of like, what was it, like a pot pie or something?
Yeah, they go right from that to him digging into the pus to somebody digging into a pot pie that just happens to be the same color. And I'm like, oh my God, these people are trying to destroy me ever eating anything again.
Well, you already have issues eating things. So.
Yeah, I do, but that's a side point. All right, so yes, Arya and Hot Pie have a quick reunion.
Yeah, which is funny because you haven't seen him for like 2 or 3 seasons, I think.
Which is kind of to your point about them trying to come full circle.
Yeah, like kind of bring everyone back and kind of wrap things up.
Right.
Funny little tidbit: the actor that plays Hot Pie or Pot Pie or whatever actually is opening a bakery in real life.
Is he really?
Yeah, and it's going to be called You Know Nothing John Doe, and I find that super funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I think nothing John Doe.
I think it's a good thing. Like, I don't know how long that's gonna be successful for him, but I think it's got like another year or 2.
I think as long as they have some sort of Game of Thrones show on, whether it's this one, a prequel, or sequel,
it's gonna be so disappointing if people go there. It's like, I want to see how good this is, and it's like, it's crap.
This is horrible.
Yeah, you got the name down, but everything else sucks. But it's a fun little tidbit for it.
As long as they brown the butter beforehand, right?
Yeah.
But so really the only thing to take away from this reunion, other than it's nice to see them together again, is she learns that Jon is king of the North and heads for home, which I found surprising. I thought she already knew that.
No,
just actually, by assumption, I guess.
Well, the funny thing is, like, as she's leaving, you actually see her turn around where she was heading to kill Cersei in King's Landing, and now she is heading back north to actually reunite with her family.
Which was, I just automatically assumed that.
No, I think she more or less assumed everyone else died.
Maybe.
Like, she was there.
Yeah, that's what she thought.
But the interesting thing,
she thought the Boltons were still there.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, you do have like a bit of an extra tidbit, and you see this a bit in the camping scene last episode, where you see her just tearing in the pot pie, drinking mead, and just like a fucking soldier, just going into it, like, because she hasn't eaten, for however long.
Well, she's definitely not a lady, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in her next scene. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how she is.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting little tidbit, but yeah, it really does set up for like her transitioning from traveling down south to King's Landing to kill Cersei to being like, I have family still.
I'm going home. I can be happy.
Yeah.
Essentially. So next scene is Jon kind of back where once again we're in open North Court, I guess. And Jon,
where he's more or less making the case for him going down to
Dragonstone. He brings up the fact that he's gotten an invite from Tyrion and from Danni, who has the 3 dragons, and he also brings up the other he got from Sam, saying there's a whole mountain full of dragon glass.
It's like, this is our entire arsenal we fucking need.
Right.
And he also brings up the point is, we don't have enough fucking people to fight the fucking White Walkers.
She has the people, she has the dragons, and the dragon glass.
Like,
Win-win-win.
We can do the best we can with what we have, and I want to do that, but what we have probably is not enough.
So it's pretty much a win-win-win for them. They've got the dragons, they got the people, the armies, and they've got the dragon glass.
Yeah, the downside is more or less that you have to have Jon Snow go down there.
Right.
And essentially the North's a little paranoid about sending their rulers down south.
And they do bring up a point, which, again, I didn't know anything about this because I've never read the books, but I guess Ned's dad was lured down there by the Mad King and burned alive.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The last Targaryen they interacted with was the Mad King, and generally is not a good reputation to follow.
No, apparently not, and I don't blame him. So
yeah, that, and I mean, Ned went down and he got, murdered by the Lannisters, so.
Right.
It's generally not a great thing.
So you got a Lannister and a Targaryen.
Well, that, and I mean, you also have to go down, and, I don't know if you necessarily have to, how far away from King's Landing you have to travel through to get to Dragonstone, which might play a role in it as well.
It might. But they said they had to go somewhere and then take a boat from there. So, it's obviously risky for him to go south too by himself, obviously. Yeah. So,
but I think he makes a good point. He's like, well, I'm going to leave the North in good hands. And he's like, with who? With you, obviously.
With you, Sansa. And she is arguing with him the whole time until she hears that. And then she's fine with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's pretty much already made his point. He's like, You've elected me to help, and I took that because I want to help.
Right.
But it's not a position I asked for.
This is not what I wanted, but you elected me. This is my decision. And while I'm gone, Sansa's in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And after that, she's cool with it, which I was kind of like, okay. I was like, yeah, I can see why she's good with that, but at the same time, it's not. She's getting what she wants. I mean, what she really wants, really. I mean,
kind of, but at the same time, like, it's one of the things, like, it's also a logical decision from Jon's point as well. So it's kind of hard to fight when it's both like, I'm going to make you ruler of the North while I'm gone. And it's actually for the best decision anyway. So just don't fight it.
Right. And she just nods her head and that's the end of it. Next scene is, I guess Jon goes down to the crypt to visit his dad, or what he thinks is his dad anyway.
Well, I imagine it is.
Well, Ned actually isn't his dad, so it's actually...
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Right, but
father.
He doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Either way, so he goes down to the crypt, and there's a statue of Ned there, and Littlefinger comes strolling up, well, I'm the one who brought his bones here, and I just want you to know that, and... we had our differences, me and your dad, but we both loved your mother, and even though she didn't love you, did she?
Yeah.
And wasn't fond of you.
Kind of a shitty thing to bring up.
Really
in
shitty
that moment.
thing.
It's like, really not winning people over that one. Like, usually Littlefinger's a bit more tactful about that.
Yeah,
I think it was meant to transition to like, well, look what you become. You did so much better than her expectations.
Than she ever could have thought that you would have been. And by the way, I loved your mother very much, but I also love Sansa just as much. And that sets him off. And that would have said, I probably would have done it beforehand. And Jon just kind of...
Yeah, well, I mean, even before that, he's like, you really shouldn't be down here.
You're not welcome here.
Yeah.
He's trying to warn him, and he just keeps going.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if Littlefinger is doing that to try to see where Jon's allegiance lies, or if he's just trying to get Jon to attack him so he can tell Sansa, hey, Jon attacked me, by the way.
I really don't know what the motivation of that conversation is.
I can't figure it out yet.
Unless it's supposed to be one of the things, like, he does bring up, well, if without my army, you wouldn't be here, sort of thing.
Yeah, he did bring that up, yeah.
Unless it's one of those things like, you kind of owe me, buddy. Come on.
Come on, you can support me here with your sister, right?
Yeah, like, put in a good word for me.
Yeah, it totally backfires.
Yeah. And either way, that's the douchiest way of, like, trying to arrange that sort of thing anyway.
It's just...
it's kind of creepy that he's after, like, his old flame's daughter sort of thing.
His old flame's daughter. It's in front of his father's crypt.
Yeah.
And his father split this guy in two. He just happened to survive.
Yeah.
It's just, it's very
there's a lot of
inappropriate.
creepy shit about it. And, like, don't get me wrong, I actually find Littlefinger an interesting character in a lot of the previous seasons, but really in this one, like, just the creepiness of the characters just gone way stronger than it used to.
Well, there's really not much, left to tell with him. I mean, other than his creepy side has really come out. I mean,
Yeah.
that's his whole motivation.
Yeah, it's really, you're seeing him in Endgame, and it's this super creepy thing.
Yeah, because he's after two things. He's now in love with the daughter of the woman he loved, supposedly.
Even though he arranged her marriage to someone else for political gain.
And he obviously wants the throne. We know that. We've known that for a while.
Yeah.
So, I despised him before. Now I'm really beginning
But, I mean, that could also be for political gain as well, because if you more or less have Sansa as Queen of the North, he's more or less the kingmaker of the Vale.
Right.
Or the more or less just the king and the prince's place. Yeah. Like, you want to give yourself a larger army in the north while also kind of giving yourself more political gain. It's not a bad way of going about it. It's just creepy.
Yeah, it's very creepy. So let's just move on. Next scene is it's a pretty interesting scene to me. I really like the scene. It's Arya reunites with Nymeria, her old direwolf.
At least we think it is.
Pretty sure it is. Anyway.
Like, it's hard to say.
It's definitely
she doubts it at the end when, like, Nymeria doesn't want to go with her, sort of thing. But
actually, that is a double meaning, and I'll explain in a minute.
Okay.
But yeah, so she's surrounded by the wolf pack, and all of a sudden, this direwolf comes out. She recognizes it as her direwolf. Tries to call out to it.
Yeah, drops her sword and all that, and
she's like, "I'm coming home. I'm going home. I'm going home." You know, and the direwolf just kind of walks away.
Yeah. Honestly, that entire scene, I was just expecting just that giant direwolf just like bite into her shoulder. Like, I keep expecting them just to do that thing with Arya where it's like, she seems like she's doing okay. Well, fuck that.
Yeah, there is that slight element. I agree. There was a little bit of fear in the background.
They shot that scene with her in the first 2 episodes, and they've done it twice already.
Yeah.
Where, like, you're just almost expecting things to go bad.
Because she's a Stark.
Yeah.
Yeah. The meaning, the reason why she said, what was it? That's not her, or that's not me. It's actually a throwback to season 1, where Ned is like sitting down with her in King's Landing, and he's like, "Well, you're gonna, it's time you become a lady. You gotta wear dresses. You're gonna meet noblemen. You're gonna marry a nobleman." And she literally just turns to Ned and goes, "That's not me, but that's not me, Dad."
Yeah.
And this is kind of her getting reminded of that through the wolf, because the wolf, seasons ago, she threw rocks at the wolf in order to get it away to save her life, because Cersei would have had it killed. And now the wolf has its own life outside of her.
Okay.
She's trying to get the wolf to come back to her because she's going home.
Yeah.
So, come along, be my pet again.
Yeah.
And the wolf turns away from her because that's not what the wolf is.
Okay.
So it's kind of it's very symbolic of.
I actually would not have picked up on that. That's actually kind of a cool kind of thing with that.
I had a little help with that after show. They made a few points.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that something they commented on?
They commented on it. I was like, oh, yeah. And then I looked into it a little further. I'm like, oh, yep, sure enough.
Oh, okay. That's kind of cool. Like, I actually thought she just was, like, doubting that was her. Like, she was thinking it was, like, a wrong wolf sort of thing.
Nope. It's kind of like her looking at herself in a way. Huh. So the question...
That's kind of an interesting little bit. I wouldn't have considered that.
Yeah. So the question now is, now that Arya's kind of had this moment of self-reflection... And realizing that she's not that little girl anymore. She's not, and she's definitely not a noble person.
Yeah. Will
she continue home, or will she go back on her mission?
Oh, like, is that something where that's a
crossroads for her, and then it's like you can't go home again. So
you
have to go on.
It's just a different home, and she's a different person,
and she has to go or she has to go on being who she is.
What, just the assassin?
The assassin.
Down families.
Yeah.
Single stroke.
Until her job's done. Because she has that list still. She doesn't say it anymore, but...
Yeah. Well, I mean, she only has a couple people left on that list, though.
Sure. I mean, she's close.
So you have Cersei and you have the hounds.
She thinks the hound's dead, so... Yeah. You've got Jaime and you've got Cersei, and there might be 1 or 2 other people. I have to go back and research that.
But, I mean, essentially, you take out the Lannisters and... You might have 1 person left.
You might. So that's it. It's very symbolic. It's very reflection.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, man.
So,
I like that.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think she goes on?
I think
home?
she's still continuing, like, north. Because I actually think if you have Bran coming from north of the Wall, and he's going to eventually travel to
Winterfell.
Yeah. You have Arya going back
Mm-hmm.
to Winterfell. If it wasn't for the fact that Jon just fucking left,
Yeah.
you'd essentially have, like, the remaining Starks uniting under a single house, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I would like to see it. I just wonder if she's going to do it now.
Yeah.
So, all right. So next scene, Lady Greyjoy and the Queen of Dorne. It's a pretty brief scene.
It's a funny scene.
It's a funny scene.
Because Dorne is just fucking with the one,
Dorne is
like, she's just fucking with Theon so heavily.
Dorne loves to ridicule people and have sex with people, apparently. Anyway, so yeah, they're kind of flirting together.
It transitions a little beyond flirting,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
it starts to go into sex.
Like, if they weren't interrupted.
Yeah, they would have.
Yeah.
So yeah, but basically the big thing we take away from this brief scene is the Queen of Dorne asks, "Well, what is Theon to you?" And
Yeah.
she goes, "Well, he's going to be my protector. He's going to be my advisor."
Yeah.
And then they kind of reinforce the point that, he should be protecting you while I'm slowly making my way to my hands down your pants.
Yeah.
He's
really not protecting you in this scenario.
Is he? And
Though,
then,
I don't think she wants to be blocked in that way. Really.
Right, exactly.
I think he's really acting in her best interest there.
well, right before the explosion, she's already given him the nod, like, get the fuck out.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, I don't have a sock in the door, but this should be pretty obvious.
Yeah, it's like, time to go. And then, of course, Euron's attack starts, which is the final scene.
Oh, did you see his axe in that, though?
That was pretty badass.
Is that not the best weapon we've seen on this show?
Dude, I tell you.
Like, I'm not usually a person that buys, like, replicas from, like, Lord of the Rings or, like, Harry Potter, like, any of, like the weapon replica things, but part of me wants that fucking axe. That is a fucking amazing looking axe. Like, it's an axe and has, like, the little fucking tentacle bits all over it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's fucking beautiful just as a piece of, like, equipment or, like, design.
Or even art, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would fucking hang that on the wall.
The axe is badass, and even how the bridge comes down from the front of the ship.
Yeah, it just, like, cracks down like a crocodile.
Crocodiles, yeah, it's badass, dude. I love... It's another great Game of Thrones battle scene. I mean, it's just...
It's a little quicker than some of the other ones, but it's also, like, a surprise attack.
Yes.
Which I really think works in Euron's favor, because, like, had they seen that attack coming, like, they might have put a better defense, but...
Or can get away, maybe, too. Yeah. But, yeah, it's gritty. Two of the girls of Dorne, of the three sisters, lose their lives.
Yeah.
By the end of this battle.
Does it in pretty harsh ways.
Yeah.
Like, and you see them, like, literally fighting with Euron, and just, like...
Euron does a really good job. Euron does a good job on both of them, really.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, they put up a fight, too, though. It's
not
like they just went gently into the good night.
No. I mean, you see some intense fights, especially the one with the whip. And...
Yeah, like, you actually see him, like, pull the whip towards them, and, like, it was just pretty badass.
It's badass, very gritty. People getting their throats slit, run through. Typical Game of Thrones style battle.
Just like...
This is the first, like, ship-to-ship battle we see, though.
Like, this is... Like, had you seen this in any of the Pirates movies, you'd been like, damn, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, Pirates just got real.
Yeah.
Real fast.
Pirates went full pirate.
Yeah, holy shit. And then the big disappointment, this is where I'm, like, yelling at the screen, Theon.
After his sister gets caught. After saying he's her protector. You see him, like, seeing people get their tongues cut out. You see the blood and the guts, and you, like, just see him just freak out and just transition back
to Reek. Theon returns to Reek.
Yeah, reptilian brain just took over. Like, that PTSD just fucking kicked in.
And it just, not only did it kick in, and he left his sister with an axe at her throat with Euron. Basically, Euron had captured her.
Yeah.
And
don't get me wrong, like, you might forgive that if it came across like he had a plan, but no, it just looks reactionary. Like, he just freaked the fuck out and just caved.
He did. He jumps over the ship's side. He's legit, like, I'm out of here.
What is he going to do in this scenario when he's out of men? His sister's captured. There's not much he can do. Like, but he didn't, like, follow the ship. Like, he didn't do anything.
Well, at least, I don't know, pick up your sword. At least go out fighting. Something. He just...
Yeah, like
I know
he didn't
the
turn himself in or anything.
I know the guy's had his balls removed, but seriously.
Yeah, like he was mentally tortured. I get it. Like,
but
you have like that
mentally.
PTSD kicks in and that reptilian thing kicks in and just like it happens. But,
I mean,
like you're just seeing him floating in the water at the end. You're like, come on, do something, follow the ship.
No,
something.
He's the biggest weakling puss in the whole damn show, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah,
I'm hoping he gets a redemption moment, but I don't think
One of the interesting things about that scene, like before he jumps, is you actually see like Euron's crew cutting out the tongues of other dudes, and the reason for that is because that's how he recruits people on his ship. He recruits people from like soldiers he spares, but he cuts out all their tongues. That's why the ship's called the Silence.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, that's fucking like dark and awesome, right?
I like that.
Like, you know how Davos was spared from Stannis, but he still lost his hand?
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially, like, if they agree to go to a ship, or if they just cut out his tongue and they have the options, like, you can work for me, or you can die. So his entire ship is just, the entire crew's mute. They can't talk to each other. They can't try to rebel. They can't communicate, that sort of thing, to, like, try to overthrow him.
Wow.
Because that's why the Silence is just mute.
It's mute. That's why,
with the exception of him.
That's an interesting little dark twist. I like it.
Oh, I know, right? Like, it adds so much to that scene, doesn't it?
Yeah, it adds so much to the scene and the character, really.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, though.
Yeah, like, that's what's happening when Theon's freaking out. He's actually watching them cut out people's tongues.
I think I'm beginning to like him as the new baddie.
But no, I mean, like, it's a dark little element to, like,
very
ship,
dark. It's very
right?
dark and twist. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, no, it really adds to it. It's a good little element.
For a villain, yeah, very much so. Huh.
But I mean, then it gives the Silence like dual meaning. Like, not only is it like a quick, silent blitzkrieg sort of ship, which it was,
right?
Even though it's so fucking big, but it has like the multi-sail thing. But it also has that, like, that's just how he runs the ship. Because he pretty much makes it so they couldn't fucking rebel unless they could fucking read or write.
Or learn how to give sign language.
Yeah, and they don't. Like, you don't have sign language as far as we know in this universe. Most of the world's illiterate.
Yeah.
So, pretty much, they can take orders, and that's it.
And that's it. Damn. That's pretty cool, dude.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a cool little tidbit. I forgot where I read that at, but it's a nice little element to it.
All right, Aaron. So, your final, what do you think of the grade? What would you give episode 2, Stormborn?
I'd probably give it an A as well. I do find the ending a little disappointing with just it ending on just Theon just loafing off in the water. Yeah. But otherwise, I actually think it might be a better element or a better episode than the first one of the season.
I think this is probably the best combination, the best start to any season they've had yet.
Oh yeah, it's definitely the quickest start.
It's the quickest start, and
it gets into the main action like pretty right away. Like between like the fight scene this time, the Arya killing off the Freys last episode. Like, really, you just have so much happening in each episode. Like, there hasn't been... Like, I don't know if we're going to have, like, an episode that's just setting up, like, the rest of the season sort of thing. Because so much seems to be happening.
I agree.
Like, it's really just in endgame.
At this point. Yeah, and when you think about it, we have 5 episodes now left this season. An additional 7 next season. So, really, there's only 12 to wrap everything up in.
Yeah.
12 hours to...
wrap up the
entire
pretty
thing.
much you have 12 episodes to wrap up what took 4 or 5 seasons to set up.
So that's quite a bit to do. And so so maybe we're not getting much in quantity, but we're definitely getting more quality.
Like, I think you're pretty much still seeing the same budget going into each season that you did before, if not more,
probably
with less episodes.
Yeah, because we're reaching the end.
Yeah.
So I'll actually give this real quick. I'll give it an A, maybe even an A+. I enjoyed this really, really well. Both these episodes, especially together, so far. I couldn't have liked. I don't think they could have done any better job than they have so far.
Yeah,
this season. So, all right. Well, real quick, where can you find Forward Midwest Guys? It's real simple. We have a .com now. The number 4. You type in the number 4 Midwest Guys altogether .com. That's the number 4 MidwestGuys.com. Once more, the number 4 MidwestGuys.com. There you can find all of our podcasts. You can find links to our Podbean, to our iTunes, to our Twitter, to our Facebook. All the links are there to follow us on all the different medias. Our Twitter account. You can also follow all of our different podcasts there. They're listed chronologically, and they're also, if you go up to the top, there's links for each individual show. So if you just want the Night's Watch, you click the Night's Watch, and it'll give you everything that we got so far. If you want our other Game of Thrones podcast, The House of Zanardelli, you click that. That's new, so there's only a few, but still. Or if you like Star Wars Rebels, you click that. Same thing. It's all categorized for you if you want to do it that way. So one-stop shop, the number 4, MidwestGuys.com. Aaron, thanks for joining us on this very special way to kick off the Night's Watch 2-part special.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, and this is B. Willie saying we will catch you next time.